Righto, power and communications, section 4. What I took, what I thought worked real well and what didn't work so well. So let's get straight into it, and I'm going to talk straight up about what we took to charge everything and how we charge those things that charged our other gear. First of all, I ended up taking in 2 battery banks, battery packs, whatever you want to call them. And this one was the second one I purchased, and the only reason I ended up purchasing this at the last minute, it's made by Rav Power, and the reason I bought it is young Jake bought one. There's something I wasn't aware of, that there is a new Type C USB outlet or USB port that will be released and will be made available, I believe, in the next few years. And what this does, unlike the normal USB ports, which are limited, I think, to about 2.1 amps out, I think this can push, which I know it can push up to about 3 amps with the right connection and the right cable. Now, a lot of the stuff isn't available yet, but this is just a little bit more future-proof. This one here is about, I think it's just over 20,000 milliamp hours, and it's basically got a quick charge, a quick port charging, Type C charging port, and obviously this new green, you actually notice, I don't know if you can see it there, but it's actually a green USB port, and it allows up to 3 amps of output charging power. This worked well. I won't say it charged any faster than any of the others that we had, purely because I don't believe we have all the technology and all the accessories that are available to get the best out of this at this stage. But it is a little bit more future-proof to what you're going to see in the upcoming years. Now, the one that I spoke about and again served me well was the Anker, and that's ANKER. This is a 26,800 milliamp hour battery bank, and what I believe makes these good, and probably the Rav Power as well, if you're familiar with the 18650 batteries that are used in a lot of the new torches and that now, Panasonic make a range called the Blazer, and these batteries are outstanding and far better than many that are on the market. And I believe the batteries in these are the Panasonics. And this worked extremely well. This has the 2 inputs, which allowed me to hook the 2 solar panels up to charge it, and obviously 3 outputs. You basically get a display of what, as soon as you plug anything in, you'll get a little visual display there, or you can press that button and it'll tell you, obviously 4 lights is full power. Now, charging these. I originally took in 2 of the Anker solar panels, and what can I say? Well, all I can say is if you know you are going in and you're going to have good, bright, sunny days, these are going to work fantastic. They're going to do the job. Depending on how much you're taking out of your batteries, obviously is going to depend on how much you need to put back in. If it's overcast, it's going to be like any solar panel. It's not going to work as well as it does when it's on a full bright day. If you're in heavy tree cover, it's not going to work as well. So you need to weigh up how much power you are going to require. If you think you're going in cloudy, wet conditions in heavy tree cover, you're probably better off not taking the solar panels, but purchasing more of the battery banks, and work out how much you think you're going to need to actually take as far as milliamp hour capacity. Now, that's all going to come down to how much you're going to be charging, what you're going to be charging, and I did change my requirements in the end. I'll go into that a little bit more in a second, because I ended up not charging my UHF or my Rhino, which I ended up taking in, and I used AA batteries. I'll go into that in a second, and there was a couple of little issues with that. One little thing that I did find, which is actually quite a good little tool to work out how much power things need to charge, how much they're going to take out of your batteries, is, again, these are just available on, hopefully you're probably going to be able to see that. I'll zoom in and just show you in a minute. But basically what this does is tells you when you plug this in line with any USB attachment, it's going to show you how much power, now I'll plug this into this radio, how much power it's going to take to actually charge any device. You can reset it. It will tell you how many milliamp hours from start to finish. It'll tell you the current, whatever. And really in the end, all you're worried about, without getting too technical here, is does this take 4,000 milliamp hours out of my battery each time I'm going to charge it from flat? Does it take 1,000, whatever? And then you can get an idea of how many times you're going to be able to charge each device from a complete charge of your battery bank. So in this case, now I'm moving on to communications a little bit here, because the two options we had as far as comms were going, communication, was going to be take our, well, my ever reliable ICOM IC40. Jake ended up taking his IC41 ICOM radio. In my opinion, the ICOM radios are still the best when it comes to UHF radios. We ended up taking, well, three of us ended up taking in the new Rhino 750s, which I'll go into a little bit in a moment. They worked well, but if you want good communication, forget the GPS, ICOM are hard to beat. The only issue you've got with them is you've got two options of charging them. Through the 240 volt plug pack cradle and a 12 volt cigarette lighter plug. Now, obviously wasn't going to be an option for us, or what we didn't think was going to be an option. But Jake found this little lead, which is a very handy little lead, which basically, if you look at most plug packs and whatever that plug in into your PowerPoint 240 volt, it's transformed down. Now in this case it was to 12 volt. So what we found is a 5 volt to 12 volt converter, which actually worked quite well. And Jake took in a similar arrangement to this, where he could basically use his normal home cradle, plug this in, now I'm saying this, there we go, turn it on, and it's now actually charging that right. Now, hopefully you will be able to see this. I'll zoom in on this in a second. But basically that'll tell you from empty to full. Obviously this light will change to green once it's fully charged. It'll tell me how much power I've taken out of my battery bank to actually charge this. They worked really well, and this is what Jake used, and not only did it work well, it worked quite quick. I think, don't quote me, I think it was 2 to 3 hours from virtually an empty battery, a fully discharged battery, to fully charged. And it didn't, I know Jake for a fact only took one of these in, and I don't believe that he ever ran it down completely. So that was Jake's arrangement, but he used the IC41 ICOM, not the IC40 as I've got pictured here. There's also another little thing that we found when we started looking at these USB things, and this is a little USB to 12 volt converter. So in other words, your 5.1 or 5 volts to 12 volts. Now it's not going to be for any heavy duty devices, but for charging radios or anything like that, yeah, it's an option, and they seem to work quite well. Again, just on eBay, just do a search, you'll find them. Now, what I took in from communications was the new Rhino 750. Now, we had the 650 for quite some years. All the boys just basically had them, and we found, in general, look, a lot of people give them a bad name, but the best way I find to sum these up is they're a fantastic GPS and a pretty good radio. The radio, in my opinion, is a little bit of a trade-off, and it's nowhere near as good as the ICOM. It does the job, don't get me wrong, but the overall package, and I must say the 750 was actually an improvement on the 650. One, that it does charge off USB. The only thing that we did discover, that for some reason it comes with a 240 volt plug pack, which basically has a mini USB port or plug. It charges in about 3 or 4 hours with this plug pack. But if you plug a mini USB lead off the battery bank, it takes overnight. Now I measured the current, and it seems to be about a quarter of the current capability when you run it off a battery bank or any other USB port compared to when it runs off its 240 volt plug pack lead that it comes with. I don't know why. You would think if you basically just plugged into that port, it would just charge at its optimal USB rate. But it allows almost overnight if you want to get this fully charged just off a USB port. The second thing, and what I mentioned before, is I ended up taking in the AA battery pack because I'm thinking, once I realised that this took a long time to charge, I'm thinking, I don't want to be draining, I don't want to be relying on my battery pack every night, because we were going to have to charge these every day or the end of every day because our communications was obviously very important. So in the end I took in the AA pack, which takes 4 AA's. It did last a day, but what we did notice that happened, and I didn't find out until we got down there, is when you're on the normal rechargeable battery that I normally use all the time, you've got the option of 0.5 watt, 2 watt or 5 watt when it comes to your radio. As soon as you plug in your AA pack, the radio's wattage is only limited to 2 watt. Now in the end, we didn't discover this until the last minute. So it didn't end up being a problem because in most cases 2 watt was going to be enough. The polling on these was fantastic. Most of the time we used these on silent and vibrate, and we sent messages, which you can do similar to a text messages. You're limited in lettering and the amount of letters you can use. But what we did, if we wanted to talk on the radios, we would just send a message, talk on radio. Something simple as that. And then we would just go to open speaker or put our earpieces in. They did work well. They are an improvement over the 650. Besides the bigger screen, all of them polled well. We could see where we all were. The topographical maps on them were really good. But what I will say, and one thing I will say actually failed, and I would not waste my money on it because it's a subscription with Garmin, and it's called Bird's Eye, and it allows you to download sections of satellite imagery and upload them onto here. Now I did this, in all fairness, it was absolutely useless. You couldn't work out anything. You had to have the screen on full brightness. Maybe it's just a thing with the Australian maps or Australian satellite imagery, I don't know, but it was absolutely pathetic and I would not waste my money. Yeah, I was very disappointed. It wasn't a huge amount, I think it was $40 or whatever for the subscription, but yeah, look, maybe around areas that you've got sort of a bit more structure, houses, sheds, stuff like that, but when you're in sort of areas that was just trees and clearings, and that's what I wanted it for. I wanted to be able to see where clearings were so I could move my way towards them, whatever. Something you can't see with obviously topographical maps. So I was disappointed with that side of it. Overall, the Rhinos worked well. A little bit disappointing that it takes so long to charge off a normal USB. I'm not sure whether the 12 volt, genuine 12 volt like car plug charging port will charge as quick as the 240 volt one. It probably does. I'm sure Garmin have got it covered, but definitely if you just use a normal USB to mini USB lead and plug it in on the back onto there, yeah, it is as slow to charge. It takes probably almost about 24 hours from empty to full. That was a little bit of a bummer, but now this is sort of, I don't know if it's really in the power section or whatever, but I'm going to probably talk about this in both sections because this is actually a power pack. You can actually use it to charge devices and whatever, but its primary use is my hard drive, portable hard drive. It was fantastic. I'll talk a little bit more about it in the camera section and whatever, but I would not hesitate to buy one of these Western Digital My Passport wireless. Absolutely fantastic. Headlamp that I spoke about in the pre-trip little discussion was my Tika, the little hybrid. Petzl Tika. absolutely fantastic. I took 3 sets of batteries in with this and never changed one set, and I used it quite a lot. Actually, a couple of nights we're coming back 2 or 3 hours in the dark, and it was fantastic. More than enough light, fantastic on batteries. Wouldn't hesitate to buy another one of those. Now, around camp, you get back and you think, oh, I need something just to shine a bit of light, see what you're doing. Well, a couple of things again we didn't know of, and I bought was these little things. J-Car in Australia, electronic wholesaler, retailer, had these little things, they look like a little solar light, camp light, but that's how they're folded up, and when you pop them out, that's what they are. But what they are is a little light. But these were absolutely fantastic. Press them once, so that bright, press them again, they're full brightness. Press it again, it blinks. Not that we use the blink side of it. They've got a USB, little USB lead, which you can actually just magnet on top there, clip on to charge them. Now, that does say that they will fully charge with the USB and I think 3/4 charge with the solar panel, but we had these on, hung up in a tree every night, or hung up on a pole, and just left them shining in the sunlight all day, every day. Come back, turned them on, hung them up. They shone enough light to see around. We had 2 of them. They don't take up much room. You can use them for storage, like that's the whole idea of this thing, and basically I never used it for that, but bottom line is these were really good. I don't know if they're still made, or I know they were clearing them out. They're only like about $12, but they were really good, well worth the money. We had them on every night. They never turned themselves off. We only had them on the first brightness, but it was enough to see where we were going. And every now and then you pick up these things that are actually something that you didn't expect and are actually surprised you. So they were one of those things. But overall, we never really had an issue with any of the power gear. All of it worked well, but we did research it a fair bit. Both the Anchor and the RAV Power did the job. Solar panels, like I said, if you really need the power and you're going into a darker environment, more tree cover, where you're not going to be able to take advantage of the sun, you're probably better off carrying in more of the battery packs, purely because they're cheap enough and they really do the job. The phone, look, I took my iPhone, I always have my iPhone with me, and mud maps, Jake used mud maps primarily. I used it a bit, worked really well. Look, I might be wrong here, but it would be fantastic if you could actually download the satellite imagery first and then just store it. Look, I might be wrong, I may not have worked out how to do it, but I know you can do it with the maps, but the satellite imagery, if you could store certain sections first, look, if someone knows how to do that, please send me a message on how to do it, because it would be on its own if you could do that. The iPhones, obviously we charged them through our battery packs. They all worked fine. Other than that, we never really had any major issues. They all worked well. So yeah, I'd highly recommend. Look, it's just a matter of getting the right equipment to suit you, the right charging capacities, depending on what gear you're taking. I never had any problems charging any of my cameras with these, and in all fairness, I was probably walked away with more power requirements than I actually needed. So yeah, quite happy with overall with what we took in.